Welcome back. Today's message is for anyone who feels gripped by fear at the thought of taking a leap into the unknown. Perhaps you are considering a move, perhaps it's a career change, a financial investment, or the ending of a relationship. Perhaps you are doing something new that you have never done before, and you have no idea how it's going to turn out. Whatever the case may be, when we know in our spirit that a change is needed, that we can no longer keep living in the same environment or operating under the same limitations or painful patterns, or doing things that no longer bring us fulfillment, there will be this moment of fear that prevents us from taking action. We can know what we need to do and still not take action on it because we fear what that change might bring. I know this from firsthand experience because I have had several scary moments since my spiritual awakening began back in 2020, where I had to jump off the cliff into the unknown. So today I want to share with you some of the reasons why fear keeps us frozen in place, what you can do to mitigate that fear and to move through it, and why it is so important that you listen to where you're being called, even if it's scary. Let's dive in. First, I want to begin with an example of a fearful situation that nearly all of us have experienced at some point. Do you remember back at summer camp or even in gym class at school where you had to do the trust fall? I'm sure you've had to do the trust fall at some point. You are standing up on an elevated object and you have a group of friends or classmates behind you, and you have to fall backwards without looking and trust that someone is going to catch you. That is exactly what it feels like when we are taking a leap of faith or entering unknown territory. We have to trust that God, our angels, our ancestors, our spirit guides, and even our own intuition and our own capabilities will catch us when we leap. It is very scary. And what is even scarier is that in real life, there's big things at stake, right? In real life, it can feel like making this change or taking this risk is going to cost you everything. And in some cases, it might. Leaving a long-term relationship is going to cost you the identity that you had when you were in that relationship. It's going to cost you friends that you had that were connected to that relationship. It's going to cost you a sense of belonging. So the reason why many times we are afraid to take the leap is because we don't know what the outcome will be. It can almost feel like a death of sorts when you leave something behind in order to pursue something new, to let something in your life die in order to follow a new path. It's a huge risk. It's a risk because you don't yet have any physical proof that what you're about to do is going to work out. There's no guarantee. You don't get to know. No one is showing up saying, hey, I've got you no matter what happens. Or you don't have a crystal ball that lets you read into the future to see how it's all going to turn out. You just have to trust in your own intuition and your own inner calling. And if you're lucky, you have a body of evidence of previous times where it did work out in your favor. There was a positive outcome. And the more positive outcomes you have, the less fear you're going to have in taking those leaps. If you don't have any body of evidence, that's a whole separate issue, which you may need some support around. Usually it's fear. Usually it is some kind of fear that holds us back from seeing the results that we want. And it is also a lot of times that we don't trust God, our angels, our ancestors, our spirit guides to support us in what we're trying to do. These are all things that you can learn and train yourself to get better at. Moving on, let's talk about where does that fear come from and why does it keep us frozen? Well, number one, fear is the ego's way of protecting us, of keeping us safe. The ego is the non-spiritual part of you, the human persona that has been trained and conditioned through life experiences not to trust the flow of life. Somewhere along your life's journey, you had negative experiences with people or situations that broke your trust, that hurt you, or made you think you couldn't be successful, that you couldn't have what you wanted, that you weren't good enough, or you didn't have what it took. Therefore, you developed a fear of ever taking risks or chasing after your dreams. Let me give you a personal example of this. As a child, I always had the fear of conflict. I had the fear of speaking up, and this fear carried through into my adult life. I became a people pleaser. I became the peacekeeper, the fixer, the rescuer. I wanted everyone to feel comfortable so that there was no conflict, nobody was upset. This fear that I had going back to my childhood prevented me from ever speaking my truth. It prevented me from ever saying things that I needed to say to advocate for myself in situations where I was being disrespected or mistreated or just not getting my needs met. It caused me to be silent in relationships that were one-sided, in relationships that were taking and not giving. And over the course of time, I felt miserable in my own skin because I was more worried about making other people uncomfortable than about the discomfort that I was feeling. And to break this fear, let me tell you, it cost me years and years of therapy. It cost me practice, trial and error. It cost me lots of subconscious reprogramming. I had to go back in there and with meditations, with my therapist, different modalities, I had to change those thoughts and beliefs that came from my childhood about myself. Why was I afraid to make other people uncomfortable? Well, it was situations that had negatively impacted me in my childhood that made me think that it wasn't okay for me to have needs. It wasn't okay for me to have a voice, that I had to make sure the people around me were happy and comfortable, because if I didn't, that meant that I was not safe or that my environment was not safe. So this is just one example where we pick up these fears over the course of our lifetime. And big or small, these fears can prevent us from taking actions that we need to take. These experiences that we have are usually not the truth of who we are inside. They are not the truth of our highest potential or our authentic selves. They are only experiences and lessons. If you think back to a time in your childhood where you were absolutely carefree, and sometimes it is hard to think back to that time, but there was a time, trust me, when you were carefree and happy and you had no fear and you weren't afraid of expressing yourself and you weren't afraid to try new things and even to jump, like literally jump on the playground or leap or try, let me try this, let me see if I can do that. Think back to that time and remember how you felt at that time. You never questioned whether or not you could do something. The mindset you had as a child was that you could do anything that you wanted. You could try it, you were capable, you were confident, and you could take on the world, right? At some point, we all had that mentality. Now, what happens is over the course of our childhood and over the course of our lives, we have negative experiences that diminish that confidence. It is only through negative experiences, or you could say wounding, that your belief in yourself changed, or that you stopped trying to do scary things because of what other people told you or how your life experiences shaped you. But that doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing them. Secondly, fear comes from a lack of proof that you can be successful. Now, this might mean that you haven't put yourself out there enough in order to build up a body of evidence showing you that things can work out for you. Or it might mean that you have let failure stop you and that you didn't persist long enough to see the results of what it was you were trying to do. Or finally, it might mean that your trust muscle is weak and that you haven't practiced doing scary things enough in order to see them work out. In my Soul Awaken course, I do several exercises and lessons on this very topic of building your trust muscle, because it is so important in order for us to conquer that fear of taking a leap of faith. It is so important for us to build up that body of evidence and see things working out. So if you would like some more one-on-one support with this topic, with developing your trust muscle, please see my mentorship options below that are linked in the show notes. Let's look at it this way. You think of investors, for example, big investors that have a lot of money. They put millions of dollars on the line for a business deal or transaction. They use mitigated risk, of course, so they're doing their research, they hire a team of experts, they follow the markets, they consider all the possible pitfalls, okay? But still, in the end, they have no guarantee that this business deal or transaction is going to pay off. They take a risk because they believe in themselves and because they trust that even if it doesn't work out, that they will learn something through the process and that they will always find a way back to the top. Rich people don't get rich by playing it safe, and they don't get rich by playing it comfortable either. The same is true with you. If you want to start a business, if you want to write that book, make art, make music, put yourself out there in some way, there is going to be risk involved. You may face rejection. People might not like it. People might not buy your product. You have this idea and this dream to do something, but you have no idea how it's going to be received. You may be called to create something, but you have no evidence yet to guarantee you that what you are creating is going to be successful. It's a risk. You create it because you love it. You create it because you have this inner calling to create it. You feel pushed or guided in this certain direction, and your spirit won't let you forget about it. The thing is, though, that if you create something because you followed the call inside and then it does work out, well, now you have evidence that it is possible. Now you're building up confidence in yourself and you're building up evidence that you are capable of doing scary things. So pushing past your fears is actually the only way you're going to find out whether or not something is going to work. It's almost like you have to be willing to be afraid and to push past those fears in order for those fears to eventually resolve. Because you're never going to build up your trust muscle if you always stay in your comfort zone and you're not putting yourself out there. These experiences, these positive experiences, tell your ego that it's safe to try something new. It tells your ego that it is safe to enter the unknown and take a leap. That is not to say that the dreams you once had are still going to be your dreams today. Maybe you had a dream 5 years ago and now you've moved on to something different. The nudges never stop. As you grow and evolve, you're always going to be called to push past your fears, to push past your comfort zone. That's how it works. We can't grow and evolve if we aren't willing to give some things up. Growth requires change, and change is uncomfortable. That is the inevitable part of life. What keeps us stuck is actually not the fear of the change itself, but it is the belief that this change is going to result in something bad or something negative. And why is that? Why do we automatically assume that ending something or leaving something behind means that we won't be successful or have what we need going forward? Well, there's a couple of reasons for this. One is wounding, and two is a weak trust muscle. So wounding and conditioning, as I mentioned before, are things that negative experiences are things that happen to us over our lifetime that cause us to lose trust in ourselves, our abilities, maybe cause us to become less confident or to fear that we're going to have another negative experience. So in a way, we try to protect ourselves from this. And two, a weak trust muscle is just that we haven't been brave enough or courageous enough to push past our fears enough times and to be persistent enough to see that it is possible for things to work out for us. That even if we have to get uncomfortable, even if we have to do something really freaking scary, that doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a positive outcome. So we have to shift our beliefs. We have to stop assuming that trying something new means that it's going to result in failure. Now, at the moment that you are about to take this leap of faith, you're about to jump off the cliff, is your body going to freeze? Are you going to feel like there's a chance you might die? Yes. From personal experience, I can say yes, okay? But there are some things that you can do to mitigate these fears and to sort of plan ahead for it, I guess, or to lessen the fear that you feel. Number one, you can help yourself arrive at 100% clarity. And you do this through discernment. Okay, I'm going to give you a personal example. When God called me to write my first book, I got this nudge in my stomach, like super strong, like you need to tell this story and you need to tell it right now. And I was thinking, what in the heck? You want me to write a book? I'm just going through a divorce. I am trying to put my life back together. I'm trying to support my kids through this. We were in the middle of a pandemic. I had no clue how to write a book. I didn't know how I was going to do it, and it felt impossible. But the more that I gave myself time to sit with it, the more clear that vision became. It was almost like I couldn't imagine myself not doing it. No matter how scary it was, I was telling very vulnerable parts of my life story. I was sharing things that I had never shared publicly or that openly before. And it was scary. It was really scary, let me tell you. It was scary to be so vulnerable, so open, and so public with many of these life experiences. But as I sat with it, I knew 100% this is what God is calling me to do, and that no matter what happens, there has to be a reason why I am feeling this nudge to tell my story. And I did. I followed the call, and I knew I was doing the right thing because I had a sense of peace about it. I had no doubt in my mind that this was what I was doing, even though it was scary. I pushed past those fears and I did it anyway. Number two, a second way that you can help mitigate fears of taking a leap of faith is by timing your leap. Timing is very crucial because sometimes God gives us clarity on what we're supposed to do, but we're not supposed to act on it yet. In other words, maybe you know that you need to make a career change, but you haven't found another job. You haven't yet decided what else it is you want to do, and it might impact other people or things in your life. So yes, you know that a career change is needed, but you have to wait for the right timing and wait for other things to align in your life to allow you to be able to take that leap. So timing is crucial. If you rush ahead with a decision before you are ready or before the circumstances are ready, that can create more fear. It can actually, put your nervous system into a state of fight, flight, or freeze, and then you're not going to want to act at all. You might change your mind, or you just might stay stuck in a situation much longer than you should be. So planning the timing, listening to your inner voice about when the timing would be right, and allowing things to align at their own pace is super important. Finally, the last thing you can do to mitigate the fear of the unknown is to strengthen your trust muscle. And this is something I teach in my course and that I work with my clients on. But strengthening your trust muscle is something that you can practice. It is something you can develop over time. As I said, these fears that we grow up with and these wounds that we have can be paralyzing. Sometimes paralyzing to the point where we will keep ourselves in circumstances that are not healthy for us or not in our highest good well beyond the time that we should have. Or sometimes the fear is so paralyzing that we don't fully utilize our gifts the way we were meant to use them because we're fearful of judgment. We're fearful that people won't like it or that it won't be received well. So developing that trust muscle through practice is crucial in order for you to move through these fears. And again, I'll just refer you to my course because I don't want to go into that in this particular video today. The last piece of this message that I'm being called to share is why it's so important to listen to where you're being called. The reason why it's so important for us to listen to those inner nudges and the higher call that we feel inside is because we are shifting the energy of everyone around us when we do that. Each time you choose to leave behind familiar patterns and surroundings, each time you courageously speak up about an injustice or something you don't agree with, each time you take a risk to do something you've never done before, you are changing the script. You are giving others the permission to do the same. Your loved ones are watching you. Your community and your followers are listening to you and waiting for you to take the leap so that they can do the same thing in their lives. It's almost as if we have an obligation to ourselves and to them to do so. Because every day that we don't step forward to the thing that we're being called to do is another day that someone doesn't get to experience the gift of you being you. It's another day that they don't get to hear a truth that will set them free. It's another day that they won't receive the encouragement that they need to do something scary. It's another day that they don't get to experience your gift and your reason for being here. So ask yourself, who are you to not share your gifts with the world? Who are you to hide yourself or to keep yourself in a tiny box just because you're afraid that it won't work out for you? That seems kind of selfish, doesn't it? You were given special gifts by God so that you could use them to help others and help this world become a better place. So what on earth are you waiting for? What if it does work out? What if the moment that you decide to jump off the cliff and trust the universe to catch you, that it actually does? Maybe, just maybe, it does. And maybe, just maybe, that fear that you've been carrying is not something that you're meant to carry. I hope that you have the courage to risk it all for something that you believe in. And above all, to trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your gifts, trust in your capabilities and your ability to figure things out. Trust in God and your angels to catch you when you leap. You've got this. Don't let fear stop you. Thank you for listening to today's message. I hope you have found it helpful. Stay tuned for a guided meditation that I have coming out soon to help you recenter and realign with your desires and to bring your mind, body, and spirit into balance. You can get on the wait list for this meditation now. It will help you with exactly what we're talking about today in overcoming fears of taking a leap of faith. Because the more centered and grounded you are, the less fearful you're going to be of those changes. There's a sign-up link in the notes below if you would like to be the first to see that meditation when it comes out. I also offer one-on-one mentorship services. If you are struggling to move past blocks or fears that might be a result of wounding or negative past experiences, feel free to reach out to me via email, or you can sign up to book a discovery call with me down below. Until next time, take care. I hope you have a wonderful week. Much love.